There are a lot of questions being asked about Bowe Bergdahl and his time in captivity. And to get some insight into those issues, we're joined by Brock McIntosh. He is a U.S. Army veteran who served in the same part of Afghanistan as Bergdahl. He's done a lot on behalf of veterans. Brock, thanks for joining us. For our international audience, can you just describe some of the many challenges that soldiers returning home from war zones face?
Sure. So when you're in a war zone, it's a completely different world. You're constantly on call. You're working all day, and the work that you do has a very profound impact, and it has a lot of meaning for you and purpose. And there are also experiences that you have in a war zone that can be terrifying, that can be frightening, that can feel morally contentious. And so when you return to the civilian world, you finally have the opportunity to process everything that happened over the course of your deployment, and you're doing it usually by yourself. You're disconnected from the people that you just served with, that you feel a strong bond with, and you feel sort of alienated from your loved ones because they can't relate to you, and it throws off relationships a lot.
That being said, there's been a lot of speculation about what actually happened on the day that he was captured. That being said, is it possible that, soldiers can step away from feeling overwhelmed just to have some moments and end up in a situation maybe as Bergdahl did?
I don't know exactly why he left, and we don't know why he left yet. We don't know what his motives were. And so I think we'll have to wait to see what comes out of that. But I think it's really unfortunate that a lot of the media is crucifying him without knowing the facts.
I want to talk about coming back home. You mentioned the difficulties. Taking it a step further, how much more difficult will it be for him having been in captivity for as long as he did, and with all this attention on him?
Right, he's going to have a very tough time. I mean, usually usually the experience you're processing is a deployment that lasted 6 months, a year, no longer than a year and a half typically. But he has to process not only his deployment, but then on top of that, 5 years of captivity with the Haqqani network, where he was allegedly tortured, beaten, and it just came out that he supposedly spent 2 years straight in solitary confinement in a very small 6x6 cage. And so it's going to be a long road of recovery for him.
Much more so than perhaps other people. And we just heard Ginger say in her report from San Antonio that he has still been he has not been able to see his parents or any family members. Is that common?
I don't know if that's just something. I mean, usually if you're a typical soldier, seeing your family is usually the first thing that you do. They're usually waiting there on the runway for you. Obviously, this is a different situation. He's coming back from being held captive for 5 years, and so I think that they just wanted to make sure that he was mentally healthy and prepared before he talked to him, and he may not be mentally or emotionally prepared to talk to them as well.
It's hard to say, but any idea of how long it may take for him to be reintegrated into society, and how long he may stay there in Texas?
A lot of people are saying that it could take weeks, and I suspect that it would probably take weeks. It would take a while, and we could tell that he was experiencing a lot of trauma and a lot of conflict before he went off the base, and so I think it's going to take at least a few weeks.
What do you think needs to happen to better help him? I know there's been a lot of attention, at least here in the United States, with veterans and their care, especially health care, with what has happened with the VA scandal. But what do you think he needs, since you spent time there yourself?
I think that he honestly just, I'll tell you what's not going to help him. What's not going to help him is going through an investigation that will land him in a military prison for years. I think that would be a crazy thing to do, given that all that he suffered. I think that what he needs is just time to be able to reflect on his experience alone and to have time with his family.
So no international attention, no pressure. We've been hearing from a lot of politicians, but you're saying they should just stay out of it and leave him alone.
I think that the politicians have been doing nothing. The deal was, now he's saying that there's no way he would ever support releasing these 5 people, and so I think that they're just using him as a political chess piece, and it's really unfortunate. People are calling him names, and this is the exact opposite of what he needs after coming home from an experience like that.
All right, Brock McIntosh, we truly appreciate your unique perspective. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.